Hello, this is Dean Radin, and I'm on Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hello, this is Dr. Raymond Moody, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, cultural creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Dr. Shefali, and this is Your Superior Self.
I have to thank you, right? Like I'm listening to your book currently, two of your books. And I think your philosophy, I think your practice is very unique, and I'm obsessed with it, right? Like I'm in counseling right now, and some of the theories we talked a little bit about that before we started recording. It's very unique because I think it is an integration of Eastern philosophy, a little bit with Western theory, but not that much, right? It's like a sprinkling of a Western theory. But talk about that, right? Like, can you talk a little bit about your history and your background and how you got to where you're at today?
So first I'm from India, but that really doesn't have much to do with my philosophy, because while I was in India, I didn't train in any way to think like the way I do now. My way of working with people comes from my practice in Vipassana meditation. Vipassana meditation and all meditation, most meditation, focuses on the observation of your thoughts and teaches you that you are not your thoughts. What that means is don't identify with your thoughts, with your beliefs, because these are just conditionings. Your thoughts are conditioned. So it teaches you that you basically question everything, understand that your conditioning is what you are. You think you have free will, but you don't, because you're conditioned. And your job to awaken is to become aware of all this conditioning and begin to separate your attachment to it so that you can then execute choice. Until we detach from our identification with our thoughts will take us everywhere. Meaning, so if you have a thought that says, he's angry with me, then I'm going to react to it because I believe in the thought. I believe it's real. Instead of detaching from the thought and going, oh, I'm having a thought that he's angry with me, but maybe the thought isn't right. Where did the thought come from? And then you do this deconstruction, which allows you to have freedom to choose whether you want to continue thinking that thought or not. Versus if you think that the thought is real, you'll just, oh, he's angry with me, and then you'll get scared, and then you'll react, and you'll just act as if the thought is real. So the first premise of meditation is that your thoughts are not real. They are conditioned. And your beliefs are not real. They're conditioned. So that actually is very liberating for someone like me, because I go, wow, so I have a choice here. I can just begin to observe my thoughts and my belief systems and then choose which ones I want. So yes, you can. So I help my clients do that for themselves. And then the second thing meditation teaches us is that everything is co-created, meaning everything comes from something, which then teaches you that figure out where it came from, right? Don't just presume it showed up in the moment without an origin. It came from somewhere, and the origin came from another origin. And also part of that is that because everything is coming from cause and effect, if you are part of something, then you are a co-creator. And that's what I teach parents, that you are a co-creator with your children. The old model of parenting said that your children are to be fixed. Go and fix them. It's your job to control them. And parents never took responsibility for their co-creation, for their part in how they are perceiving their children. And that's what I teach in my work is, how do parents identify less with their belief that they have to be in control, that they know everything, right? That's the piece of the thoughts are not you part. And then the second one is, how can you as a parent truly understand that you are a co-creator of your experiences with your child? And most likely, your ego is the one that's causing all the trouble. So that's what I teach in this new book of mine. It's called The Parenting Map. So people should go grab a copy right away.
I have mine. I love it. I love it to death. You talk about interconnectedness and oneness, right? Have you ever experienced that in your meditations?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So interconnection is another thing that you develop as you practice meditation, which only can happen when your egoic mind, which is so reactive, calms down. So when you meditate for hours, your egoic mind calms down and you just enter into your own inner self, in your own inner being, which is just breath, which is just energy. And when you just suspend your mind, you just feel like, wow, I'm just energy and everything around me is just energy. And you're not thinking, who is he, who is she, is what race, what nationality, what color. You're just in the breath of it. And that's the beauty of meditation, is you enter your breath, which is without identification. There's no name to your breath. There's no color to your breath. There's no status. There's no money attached to your breath. It's for free. It's just breath. And when you realize that all you are is breath, you realize that all we are is breath. So we are therefore all one, all the same. Just we are disguised in these bodies, but it's just an illusion.
An illusion, like simulation, like virtual reality almost, you think?
No, just that our minds are tricking us to only see the outside. And we think that the outside, so if I look different from than you, my mind is training me to believe that that is true without looking deeper. If I look deeper into both of us, we are exactly the same. I breathe, you have blood, I have blood, we have cells, you have cells. Our difference is so infinitesimal that that's why it's an illusion. When I look at you from the outside, it looks very different. So that's the illusion. It's like, oh, don't believe this. That's not reality. Go deeper behind the external and you will see that we are all the same.
Sure. How do you get that message? How do you communicate that message with your patients, right? Because a lot of people come to you and they're not at that level of consciousness, right? Like they're slowly noticing anxiety and defenses arise in them with their kids. They come to you. What you just said is some really deep philosophy. What does the therapeutic process look like with you when someone first comes to you? How do you communicate your methods and philosophies to them to help them awaken a little bit more?
Well, first is how I view them. So if they come to me and go, oh my goodness, my son Jacob, he just got a C grade and I'm just so scared and I'm just blah, 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 and he doesn't listen to me and blah, 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 like talking. A traditional therapist may get very seduced by her story. Oh, tell me more. Let's go fix Jacob. What's wrong with Jacob? Here are 10 strategies to fix Jacob. But because I come from my point of view or my perspective, I just see her as a parent who's completely identified with the wrong things. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing wrong with Jacob. Once I get her to calm down, which may take a few sessions, I'll then show her. So I'm not playing her game. And just by not participating, I'm showing her a different way to be. Because I'm not buying into it. Nothing she says impresses me. She's anxious about Jacob, but there's nothing to be anxious about. She's anxious because she believes that A, she should have control over Jacob. B, Jacob is her puppet. C, Jacob should be successful and competitive and do well in all his subjects. All these things I don't believe in. I know they're illusions. So when I know they're illusions, I don't buy into it. When I don't buy into it, I don't feed the flame. And at some point, my client will say, what, you don't think this is something I should be anxious about? And I say, no. And then we start exploring. Oh, really? Why not? And then I teach her that these are the lies culture has told us. Don't buy into it. Similarly, if she came to me and she said, oh my God, my boobs are sagging and everyone has such nice perky boobs and I'm feeling really bad about myself. I'll just let her vent, but I won't feed into it. If I thought that she was right, that every woman should have perky breasts, then I'd be like, oh, let me find you a surgeon. Let's fix it. You see, because I come from the equanimity of the fact that most of these things that culture has told us are problems are not problems, that equanimity is the first approach. And the client will absorb that. And then I will teach them how these are lies that they have believed in just because they have had these thoughts. And I'll show them how there are other ways to believe and that their thoughts are lies, that they've just been conditioned, habituated, and they don't have to be.
So everything, well, I definitely agree with you, right? Like the theory of attachment is real. Our programs, what we've been taught, right, has been handed down generation to generation. What does the ideal person look like? What does the authentic parent look like?
Well, you rarely will meet an authentic parent because children are so damn frustrating. They keep pushing us into our ego. Well, a really authentic parent is a calm, present, focused being who understands that their children are not their possessions. They're not here to be controlled, and they don't have to control them. But when they're younger, yes, they have to be more hands-on. But as they grow older, they can just be present and allow the children to just find their own way. When they're younger, you have to do more guiding, more, quote unquote, ushering, more encouraging. But as they grow older, that stress becomes way less. So the ideal parent understands that I don't have to panic. I am raising a child over a long period of time, versus the traditional parent who believes that we need to panic at all times because we have to raise the child fast and we have to raise the perfect child and the successful child and the happy child. And I need to blame them and I need to fix them and I need to control them. The traditional parent is full of stress and angst. The conscious parent, the authentic parent, is calm, is relaxed, where there's no hurry. Time doesn't have the same meaning. We're just here to connect and be beautiful. And then from that place of connection, get the job done. But we're not coming from this stressed place of wanting to produce the child.
What does it mean to you, right? Like to be conscious? Like, what does that mean?
To be conscious means to be aware of how we are entering monkey mind and false self, and not staying on the present moment through the breath. Consciousness is really a very simple thing. It's not about, lightning and firecrackers. It's about truly being present here and now. Am I here now? Am I here now? Am I here now? And if I'm not here now, what is taking me away? Oh, my false self, my monkey mind, my thoughts. Okay, let me come back to the breath. Am I here now? That's consciousness. That's it. Is not attaching to the mind, not attaching to the mental structures of our belief systems. The Buddha said, enlightenment is the extinction of all views and beliefs. That's enlightenment, where you're completely the observer of your mind without participating in it.
There's been some interesting interviews where I've listened to you talk about your story, right? And at what point do you think yourself to be fully conscious right now, or is there was there a tipping point that started you to become more conscious, right? Like, what does that look like? Is it a process for you, or was it like one event that kind of triggered it all?
No, it's that everything is a process. Like I said, everything is cause and effect. Everything comes from something, nothing comes on its own. Sure, there could be one bigger epiphany compared to others, but it's a rolling stone down the hill, and then eventually it splashes in the water, right? Now, does it splash in a big splash or a tiny little, ripple? That depends on just the incline, the acceleration, but everything is in motion. Everything is cause and effect. But I'm definitely nowhere near a conscious being. I mean, and if anybody said that, that's the first sign that they're in ego, right? So the moment I have so many parents who come to me and say, I'm a conscious parent, I promise you, Dr. Shefali. And I say to them, I love you for saying that, but that's the first sign that you are not. So then they tell me, oh, what should I say? I said, say you're unconscious, say you're effed up, because that means you are not needing the accolade. You're not needing the fancy title of the conscious parent. That's ego. Just be humble. Just say, I mess up most of the time and I try not to. And that's just what I call consciousness. You try to evolve each time. And, what I am definitely more of today than what I was in my 20s is very much more aware of when my ego shows up, how it plays out, and how it can be sneaky.
Yeah. I think there's, like, I'm learning about existential anxiety and existential guilt, right? Like some person-centered Rogerian theories of how we're not our true selves. Like, we have these conditions of worth, and we're always trying to please other people in those conditions. And whenever we're doing that, we're just lying to, ourselves. We're not being our true authentic self. What have been some of the patterns in your life, right? Like throughout your childhood, throughout your adulthood, that you realize, right? Like, this isn't who I am. These are just the conditions that were placed upon me, right? Like, that you had to shed. Was there anything that stood out to you? I mean, besides everything that we go through in society as an individual, like, were there things that that you noticed immediately?
Sure. I mean, in this book, The Parenting Map, there are 3 stages, and the entire second stage is to help parents and all humans identify their patterns. I talk about the fighter, the fixer, the feigner, the freezer, and the fleer. So connected to what you were asking, I discovered very early, and most Indian girls in India do, that they are the over fixers, the over pleasers, the good girls. It's very common. And I was excellent at it, and I didn't realize that I was doing it to get love and significance and worth. And because I was really scared to have conflict, because I was trained, conditioned that good girls stay away from conflict. Good girls are the mediators. So it took me, and I'm still very much a work in progress, recovering over pleaser and fixer. So it takes time. The goal is not to be done with it. The goal is to be conscious of it and watch it show up and then undo it in the moment. What about you? What do you think your patterns are?
My patterns, and I see what you're doing right now. My patterns are being the good boy, right? It definitely shows up in my professional life. It definitely shows up in my marriage. It shows up in fatherhood, where the good boy, like, I always want to make people proud of me, right? And when something happens, it triggers me. Like, when, like, I take things too personal. Like, if something happens, it's outside. Well, everything's outside of our control, really. Like, the only control we have is our choice, how we show up in this moment. But I fall asleep to that, and I think that I am this character that I'm playing, and things will happen outside of my control, and then I get upset because people are asking me, why did this happen? And I immediately take offense because I'm the good boy. Like, I'm just trying to be a good boy. Like, I don't mean ill will. I just want to please you, right? I want you to be proud of me. So that pops up a lot in my life, especially with authority figures. I have a problem with authority figures. I think in Western society, it's so funny because I was watching you on Mind Valley, and you were talking about grades, and my son just brought home a D, right? And the programs in me that started to come up, right, just because of this grade. What is this, really? This grade is a letter, right? And I know how, and I know how hard he works in other subjects, but he's interested in those. And like, what comes up in me when he gets a D is like what you talk about as far as that imaginary idea of what he should be, right?
Exactly. And the panic it induces in us, as if we need to fix the child right now, because we cannot tolerate the imperfection of the moment.
Well, to that point, right? Like, with grades and expectations, like, what should a conscious parent how should we approach school for kids, right? Like, I think it's important to support them in areas that they are interested in, right? But school to them is not interesting. It right now it's not, just because they'd rather be doing other things. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like I struggle with them in the morning to get them to go because they just, I don't know, maybe it's a little, they don't want to get up early or whatever, but they always tell me that they're bored, right? I don't know if it's they're not becoming stimulated in areas of creativity or flow, but it seems like some subjects they thrive in and some they don't. And the ones that they don't, obviously some things are triggered for me because of that, those expectations and that imaginary kid that that I've been programmed to want or expect. So what should a parent, right, especially with school, with grades, right? Like, I think it's so interesting to hear your point of view on this.
Well, the first thing is that parents need to separate success through achievements with internal worth. Just separate it. Your child may be struggling, but your child is not bad. Your child may be struggling, but your child is not lazy. Do not put adjectives of who they are in their essence on what they do, period. Like, separate the two. And then if you've separated the two, you become more reasonable, more rational when you deal with the issue, because you're not looking at it as, oh my goodness, my son is going to be a drug dealer and a criminal. You're like, my son is amazing. He'll always be amazing. He's super intelligent in what he wants to focus on. This is just a glitch. How do I want to handle the glitch? There are billions of ways to handle the glitch. You can help them. You can change their class. You can get another teacher. You can get a tutor. You can ignore it. Let him just have a glitch. It's a glitch. Your kid cannot be glitch free. There are going to be 20 glitches out of 100 things. We have glitches. I'm not good at everything. You're not good at everything. Are you a master chef, a master gardener, master interior designer, master painter? No, you're not. None of us are. But we accept that in ourselves. But with our children, we send them to school with all these subjects and expect them to be A grade in all the subjects. How can that be? So we just look at it as a glitch and just manage the glitch. See, I've already calmed you down, right? If you look at it like that. But if you look at it as his identity, and therefore your identity, now you're hyper anxious to begin with, and you're panicked because you are putting all sorts of futuristic doom and gloom onto this moment. The kid is 7, but you're thinking of him at 70, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my kid is so dumb. He's always going to live in my house, in my basement. You're just thinking all sorts of rubbish because that's who we are. We put so much focus on these external things that it drives us crazy. Manage the glitch. If you have money, hire a tutor. You don't have money, keep the glitch. Why does your kid have to be perfect?
Yeah.
Sure, you can try, but you don't have to overproduce this moment of perfection. Okay, not a big deal. In the West, especially, and you see it with the children of today's generation, because, I grew up in a different culture, different era, it's called the third world. Because in my country, nothing ever worked. Nothing ever was okay. We were stuck in traffic for 2 hours. Everything broke. Everything fell apart. The TV never worked. The telephone never worked. Nothing worked. I actually learned to be resilient because I didn't expect anything. And I became comfortable with being uncomfortable. Indians are very good at being uncomfortable if you go to India, because this is just everything. The infrastructure is all messed up. So we can never predict what's going to happen next. Nothing is in our control, and we know it. But when you come to the West, because of our over-reliance on things actually working out, it actually creates a fragility for when things don't work out. We want perfection. Look at the children today. They are more indulged than ever before. They're more messed up than ever before, right? They're more confused, more anxious, because we're teaching them to not tolerate discomfort. We've taken away all the discomfort because we can't handle it. So the D grade is uncomfortable. Okay. It doesn't break you, doesn't make you. Be uncomfortable. Let's get over it. Let's show our kid The D grade did not change how dad looks at you. The D grade did not change whether you became taller, prettier, smarter, nothing. It's just a grade. So when we can have that approach, then we teach our children real resilience, so that the next time something quote unquote unexpected or negative happens, they're like, okay, that's not my identity. It's crappy, but I'm not going to fall apart because it's not my identity.
What does that conversation with him directly look like, right? What does it sound like?
Well, you could say, how are you feeling? And if he says bad, you want to first empathize. I get it. Why do you feel bad? Oh, because the teacher said I was stupid. So then you go, wow, the teacher said that? That doesn't sound very smart of the teacher. Do you think you're stupid? No. Or if the kid says yes, I mean, I can't imagine the whole conversation, but you have this attitude of how do you feel? What happened? You know that you're smart no matter what. Mom or dad, we don't think you're less smart. D grade doesn't matter at all. It's okay. We're going to try harder. Would you like to try harder? We can try, but we're okay with the D grade. You can get many D grades. You can get many B grades. You get whatever grade you want, as long as I know you're trying and I saw how hard you tried. Don't worry. Do I look worried? No. Okay. You're trying to show them that they should never be afraid of any grade. Similarly, they shouldn't be afraid of almost anything. It's okay. They are still whole and complete as they are.
I love that. I feel like this philosophy.
Sorry, let me just say similarly, don't go overboard with the A grade. You have to have the same attitude with the A grade.
Yeah.
You don't go overly happy. You go, oh, nice. Oh, okay. That's it. I taught my daughter this, and she was so funny. She would never show off her grades. Like when she got good grades, I would find it rolled up in the backpack, and she just didn't care, because I taught her, don't care about the grade. You just study and go perform, leave the grade alone. But she went to the extreme with that concept. She really didn't care, and she always did okay, but she didn't do super amazing nor super bad. She was just okay. And sometimes when she loved the subject, she did very, very well. But she was always typically stress-free, had a great childhood and relaxed. So I would rather give my child a great childhood than get an achieving superstar.
Sure. What do you care about, right? Like if you don't care about grades, if you don't care about accolades, right? And this illusion, what is it that you care about?
I care about my connection with her. I care about showing up and being present. I care about making sure I'm not judging her. I care about her having choices in her life, and me being an advocate for her if it's safe, if it's secure, for her to make decisions. I'm always trying to tell her, what do you want? What do you think? Even though I may not listen, but I wanted to at least activate that faculty of self-awareness.
I feel like that brings a lot of freedom, right? Like the more that we learn who we truly are, not like what society expects us to be, but not what society says we should want or should have. But the more that I study this consciousness that I am experiencing, the awareness, right? Like that is fundamentally who we are, right? Is consciousness. The more that I explore that and understand that, right? Like it brings a sense of freedom. But for some, it feels like they're still trapped in this illusion, the Maya, and they may not understand it, depending upon their socioeconomic status, right? Do you think that everyone can experience this freedom? Is it through meditation? Is it through listening to this? Do you think people are just not ready to hear it? How do you spread this awareness?
Yeah, people have to come to the doorstep of the teacher, and the teaching. Trust me, I'm trying to spread it, and
you are, because I feel like you're on everything. Like you've done like 1,000 shows today. It's like late as I don't know what, and you're still here hanging out and having like a very intense conversation. I mean, you're doing the work.
Correct. But I'll do the work, but I've let go of the expectation that people are going to show up, get it, change, love it. Of course, 1 in every 100 will. But I have no illusions anymore. I've been doing this for too long to think that just because I'm showing up and spreading it, that people are getting it.
Mhm.
I've been doing this for 13 years. This is the first book I wrote, which was the groundbreaking book called The Conscious Parent. And then this one is the how-to of that book, The Parenting Map. But this one came out in 2010. I've been trying to do this for 13 years. And when it first came out, I was all alone doing it. No one had heard about it. There was no social media, so I was literally knocking the door. But what I mean to say by this is that my role is to do what fulfills me. And being of service fulfills me. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm not doing this for me. And the other person's role is to do it for them. So if they're not ready, I'm no one to judge them. And anyway, people can only come to this wisdom, because this is like supreme wisdom, when they are ready to transform themselves in this matrix. And for many people, that is a very scary thing to do. So
It is very scary.
Right. So the reason why people don't come to this is because they're too stuck in the matrix, too stuck in their habit. And I have full respect for it. No one should come until they're fully ready.
Well, there's a choice, right? There's a choice whether you can be conscious to this matrix, right? And then live your life as the most authentic person that you can be, and whatever that entails. You may lose relationships, you may lose friends, you may lose a job, or you keep lying to yourself and live the illusion, which then you develop more pathologies because you're not being your authentic self. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you make the choice, but many people don't even know, that there's a choice to be made, because they don't believe that they are being inauthentic. They're so deadened to their own ego, they're so asleep that they don't even know they're asleep. However, they will experience pain in life, because pain is coming to everybody. And that's when you have the opportunity to wake up. I say pain is the greatest portal for your awakening, because that will shake your ego out of slumber. And maybe then you'll wake up. But many people don't wake up even then. They go right back to sleep.
Mm. So fascinating. And you learned a lot of, right? Obviously you have the academics, right? Like, but you learned a lot of your philosophies through meditation. Like, what were your experiences in meditation? Can you talk about that?
Yes, so meditation is such a active practice that through the practice, things about yourself become very clear. So in meditation, you have to observe your mind, and you cannot react to your mind. I mean, you can, but you have to observe your reaction. You're just sitting there for 14 hours a day when you go to a retreat. But when you're sitting at home, you can do it in 20 minutes. You begin to observe your mind. And like I said, you observe, and you begin to see how your mind is just monkey mind. And it's just made up of habits and conditionings. And you can not be ruled by your mind if you learn to observe your mind. Because once you observe the cars go by, so to speak, or the monkeys in the tree, now you can decide when you want to participate and when you want to leave. And you can make that beautiful choice of being in this world, but not belonging to it in a very beautiful, seamless way. You can go in and out and see that the monkey mind is a world of illusion. You don't have to believe all this nonsense, and that brings a lot of liberation when you can step out of it. Most people don't know that they're in the monkey mind jungle, and many don't know they can step out of it. So a spiritual practitioner knows they can get in and step out, and that's why they have freedom.
Sure. I just finished up Yogananda's book, right? And have you read that at all?
No, what is it?
No. Was it Autobiography of a Yogi?
Yeah. I've read through a few chapters, but I haven't finished.
But like listening to some of those stories, right? And the spiritual masters that come here, and especially in India, right? Like they have some of the most insane, like if you're a Westerner, right? Like myself, right? Like I've grown up, I was born in 83, right? Like raised in this society, like Northeast America, and start reading like spiritual texts, right? Of these mystics that can perform these things in this reality, right? In this form, in this matter, right? And to know that we're all interconnected. Like, I feel like we all have the potential to do these things, right? But we're just so bogged down with these lies, this illusion of this reality of like, this programming that we're not worthy, right? Like we're not able to do this. Like, I don't know. I just think it's so fascinating. Like in my meditations, right? Like it's a little different than yours, but I've still had experiences where I've received guidance or knowledge, right? And I can't make this stuff up. Like I've received, like today, right? I was in a meditation this morning, and I don't know if you've seen The Matrix or not, right? But the part where like Neo comes out of that, like that chamber where he was like naked or whatever, where he was birthed and he was like a part of the Matrix, and they're like reviving him and doing like taking all the wires out of him. And he's like, my eyes hurt. Why is that? And then like the guy was like, because you never used them before. Right. And I'm going into my meditation using my third eye to visualize this, with my guides, like our conversation. And like, I can understand that more because like, I've never used my third eye to visualize that much. So like, it's very straining on me to do that. I mean, little things like that. It might not sound monumental to you, but to me, it's like, man, this makes so much sense. It's like things are starting to click together. Like I'm remembering things more. Have you experienced that, right? Like in your meditation, I know you're focusing on the breath, but are you still receiving guidance from outside the larger consciousness system on topics like this?
Yeah, I don't look at it like I'm receiving guidance from outside. I look at it like I'm clearing away the debris and my own illusions, that my own connection to who I am and who we are is coming through me. And it's I can call it my higher self, I can call it the angels, but I prefer to call it just the removal of the junk, and so I can see clearly,
Mm-hmm.
I used to think like you that, oh damn, like who I used to think, damn, who's using me, and like to download all this stuff because I was getting all these amazing insights at 21. But then I just realized that, wow, it's just me. Like I'm just becoming clearer. And that's powerful. And I don't have to know where it's coming from or how. It's just coming in me, from me. That's all I know. And as I remove my ego, there comes more clarity. The ego is the problem that's bogging my beautiful mind down. And all of us have that potential. Of course, some are more intelligent than others, but for the most part, all of us can be in more beautiful mind than we are if we just crush the ego and learned how to do that.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. This has been fantastic. I know you've had a long day like that. It means even more to me that you've been up, I don't know, probably early doing these interviews all day, and now you're here doing mine. So I want to say thank you. Much love and gratitude to you. Thank you for taking the time. And how can people find more about you? Where can they buy the book? What's your website?
But I want people to buy the book. It's called The Parenting Map. The Parenting Map. If they want to learn to become conscious parents, it's a 20-step how to become a conscious parenting book. And they can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. Thank you for having me, Trey.